Statements deep in a discomplete. Tried to rig the game, but that don't come cheap. Tried to pick the winner, but you lost the bet. Now out the back door, attempt to creep. The mind's dying.
Okay, how'd you guys get together and decide to do a project?
You want me to?
uh, yeah, no, go for it, Hash. You got a better grasp on history.
So I started out doing music in Bellingham, Washington, and Rob was based out of Everett, Washington. So just, 40 minutes, 45 minutes south. And our crews crossed path many times. Rob was doing shows with his crew, Black Magic Noise, at a Chinese restaurant in Everett when I first met him. It was a place called the Jade Garden, and they would, throw shows there in the evening. That's how I first met him. Um, I've always had a vast enjoyment of the music that he does. Is very versatile. He's a really good rapper, really good singer, really good performer, and so he's always captured my attention as a human as well as an artist. And I was doing a bunch of different projects when I was in Bellingham from 2009 through 2014. And right towards the end, I was getting ready to move to Portland in 2014. And I don't know, I think Rob came down for, did I ask you to do the album, or did you just come down and hang out and then we ended up doing a project? I can't even remember which.
I think I was doing a show maybe with Shroom of Black Magic Noise in Portland. And I think I just stayed at your place and you were like, you want to hop on a track? And I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
Well, that would have been after this project though, because I remember us recording this one specifically in Bellingham when I still lived there at the
Oh, shit. Yeah, you might be
at
right.
the lake house. Yeah, yeah. So I don't even remember. I had so many beats from so many different producers,
Like, keep in
and
mind, this
yeah,
project started in like 2011 or
yeah,
like
Uh,
2012.
yeah. Probably like 2012 to 2014 is when we really recorded it,
Yeah.
and then it just hit a hard drive, and for various reasons, the production kind of ceased. And only recently, because now we do a podcast together called the Nostalgia Pit, and we play a song typically from either one of us, one of our musical paths, or from one of the guests. And so I realized that I had this project that both Rob and I were rapping on that never saw the light of day. And so I decided to throw the songs on at the end. And the guy who was doing our engineering at the time, he's a really, really good professional audio engineer based out of, well, is originally from Oakland, but now he's here in Portland. His name's Riddle. Goes by, wears a bunch of different hats, makes a bunch of different music. But he took a liking to the project, and he was like, yo, like, I'll do this for free. I'll master it for free. I was like, well, I'd be an idiot if I said no to that. And so, yeah, I mean, we started making music. I got to long story short, yeah, we started making music just because, I think I asked Rob to get on a track. He asked me to get on a track. We did some features for each other, and then we were just like, yeah, let's do a tape, and then it just disappeared for a long time, and now it's here for the world. So
okay.
yeah,
So why'd you choose the name Toxic Crusaders?
man, that's a good question. Rob, do you have any recollection of that?
Well, I know, like, so when I had him on my album in 2014, there was this line about radiation. It was like,
Mm,
and then I felt like it came back up on the other track that ended up being on the EP, the Toxic Crusaders EP. And it was that whole track was about radiation. So it just like, and then plus, like, where our podcast is the Nostalgia Pit. So we talk about nostalgic stuff a lot. Like Toxic Crusaders had come up, and I don't know, it just fit. I don't know why we chose that, but it's just like for some reason it fit perfectly.
yeah, it was probably a lot of, I was smoking a lot of weed in those days.
Yeah.
Just, I do a lot of I don't know, not subconscious, but stream of thought, type shit, where I'll just start rapping, start spitting ideas and stuff like that. So was one of those things where I think the idea just got spit out and it stuck. I was a big fan of the Toxic Avenger and the Toxic Crusaders when I was a kid. So yeah.
Okay. So what's Thad's role in this project? Was his production the only production?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah. Yeah.
why 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 is that?
Well, he made all the beats. I think at a certain point in time, I was, I think my first couple albums was a lot of different producers on it. And at a certain point, just because I had so many producer friends and I was getting beats from a lot of people, I decided that I wanted to do projects entirely over a single person's production. And so, if I recall correctly, when Rob came down or came up to Bellingham when I was still living there, I had a pack of beats from Thad Wenatchee, and I had done I think 2 tracks over his work before. It was one of those things where I got to know him just from doing shows in Seattle and Bellingham both. Um, so yeah, I had a pack of beats with his. I had done 2 tracks, like an A and a B side at one point of his, and he liked what I did, gave me a bunch more beats, and I I've always kind of liked his simplicity. He's I want to say he's a producer first and foremost over a rapper, but he's done a really good job from the production that I've heard of his leave like being a producer for rappers. Because I know that I knew a lot of producers that like would do a lot of instrumentation on projects and stuff like that, and it sounds really good. It's arguably better than than what he was doing, but it didn't necessarily work with the vocals over it. So I always had a strong appreciation for the simplicity in which
Yeah.
he could do stuff. So
Just some simple, dusty boom bap. I
yeah,
love it.
SB4
love.
for short. So
There you go. That's
yeah.
that's my heart.
Yep.
Um, so we are the Karma Kids. How did you guys end up putting this out through them?
Rob, you want?
Well, I met uh, Lieutenant Head Trip from Hash on the podcast, I believe. And then it just so happened that Mad Shroom, who's my brother in crime with Black Magic Noise, we're in a group together. He was out in New York and kind of randomly got in the scene with Lieutenant Head Trip as well. So it was kind of two vectors, you know what I mean? Like 2 paths of meeting him. And then I ended up meeting him recently. But anyway, yeah, it just so happened that we were kind of like in these circles and Hash randomly sent him the project like, on a whim, was like, hey, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, we'll put that out. We don't have anything coming out right now. So yeah. And so it just happened to work out.
Yeah, it worked out real well. So I met Trip because I think this was 2 years ago. I got a phone call from Premrock and of Shrapnel, and he hollered at me. So I met him because I booked Billy Wood's Little West like Pacific Northwest tour in like 2015, back when, and Prem was on that tour. If I recall, I'm pretty sure Prem was on that tour, and I also think that Prem he knows Fresh Kills, works with him on Occam's Blazer, and I think Prem might have also come through on one of the tours that Fresh Kills was doing in this area. So I struck up a relationship with Prem and become friends slash acquaintances with him. And he hit me up 2 years ago. He was on tour with Shrapnel, and their tour van had broken down, and they had no way to get from Portland to San Francisco. I didn't have a job at the time, and so I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll drive them down to San Francisco. And so I went to their show that night. It was at Kelly's Olympian in Portland, and Head Trip was opening up for them. And so that was the first time I'd ever encountered him. And then the next morning when we were getting ready to leave, they had stayed at Trip's house. And so he dropped them off, and I got to meet him that way. And Prem was pretty much like, yo, this dude's he's a hella good dude. Like, you should talk to him, get to know him and stuff like that. And so I hung out with him a couple times, invited him over for a barbecue, and we kicked it. We, had a good time. And then he got me on I'm on one of his up and coming EPs that he's doing, or that he already did recorded, with Northern Draw. He did God damn, what was the first one called? It just got released here a little bit ago.
Yeah, I
This
just talked to them. Now I can't think of it.
Yeah, but yeah, and so Northern Draw was a producer here in Portland that I
yeah,
got introduced to when I first moved out here.
Something Path? Is that what it, like the
Novel Path.
Yeah,
Novel Path?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we
that's it.
go.
That's it. Novel Path. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got to know Trip. Yeah, just through pretty much through Prem being like, "Yo, hang out with this dude. He's a good guy." And so yeah, Trip was living out here for a little over a year, a couple years, I want to say. Now he's back east, but yeah, so I just hit him up pretty much and was like, "Yo, I know you help run the Karma Kids. Like, you guys want an extra project? Like, anything that we get out of this is bonus." We like Rob and I both thought that the EP was dead at this point. So if it wasn't for Riddle mixing and mastering it for free for us, and then Trip putting it out, like, probably wouldn't have ever seen the light of day. So big shout outs to both of those guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Araless, on the song Radiation, you say, I'm a different kind of sad sack. What
True.
what do you mean with that line? Like what makes you different?
Uh, well, I'm from Seattle, you know what I mean? Or was in Seattle for a while. And it's the place of like suicidal ideation, drug addiction, grunge music. You know what I'm saying? And I'm no exception. Like I do a lot of like sad acoustic songs and I love grunge. I play a little grunge sometimes, and I do a lot of like introspective songs about mental health and shit like that. But I'm different. You know what I mean? I'm not like those other sad sacks, okay? I rock a little bit harder than them.
Hey, from one sad sack to another. I appreciate you, man.
I love
Uh
my sad sacks, man.
yeah, yeah. I've always been this way. Um and I'm not in Seattle, I'm in Chicago, so
Okay, you ain't got the
uh,
rain, you got the wind. Okay, all
it's
right.
it's the cold, man. It's the cold
Yeah,
more than the wind. Well, I guess
yeah.
it goes hand in hand. Yeah, yeah. It's dude, it's like bone rattling cold sometimes. Uh, although thanks to global warming, it hasn't been that bad in the past few years. Uh, but it gets so cold that like the older I get, the more I can't deal with it, man.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I gotta get out of here. Like it's home, but the older I get, the harder it gets. It's
I
tough.
totally feel that, man. I've been itching to get out of Washington for a long time just because of just the grayness, It's just this oppressive grayness
Yeah.
that just blankets everything and it kind of makes you feel miserable a little bit after a while. Seasonal depression is real, man. It's
Oh
like
yeah. Very
then when it's
real.
summer, like you said about the global warming, now that it's summer, it's like fucking Southern California out here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like once spring hits, it's like
It's
so
hot.
sunny and beautiful, but God, man, for like 6 to 8 months, it's just like I don't see
Yeah.
the sun and just, it's
It's
miserable.
rough. I didn't, I started every January, I get like super sad.
Yeah,
And I didn't know why. It would
yeah.
just hit me like January, February is the worst here. So it's like super cold and dark. It's like dark at 4 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
It's it's super depressing. So every January I'd take a vacation, not knowing like this is seasonal depression. I'm like, I'm just sad. Let me get the fuck out of here.
All
So
right.
now it's like, yeah, this shit is real, man. This is
Yeah.
you need that sun. You need that sunlight, vitamin D.
It's super vital. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's something else, man.
I've been doing the same thing with like my brother and sister-in-law. Like we'll go on a trip every January or February or whatever. Like you said, like somewhere anywhere else but here. Just it
Mhm.
doesn't matter where, but just gotta change it up, man.
Yeah, yeah. Preferably someplace warm.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Okay, Hash, on the song Safe to Say, you say lines blurred in the underground just because they're rapping about lean don't mean they dumbed it down. Just because they're having a dream don't need to shut them down. Who was that rhyme directed towards?
I think it was, in all honesty, when I think back on it and reflecting and stuff, I think it was directed at me, at
Hmm,
myself. And
okay.
so I, for lack of better words, was have been very, I've worn the hat of being a very pretentious person at times in my life.
Yeah.
Um, I like, there was a time when I was, underground or nothing. You know what I mean? If it's not independent, if it's anything mainstream, I think it's stupid. Uh, and that mentality really, really changed at a certain point. Okay, 'cause it was interesting because when I was like younger, I was listening to a lot more, I don't know, so to speak, ignorant music. You know what I mean? And then when I got into my teens, it was all I was Def Jux everything, like Aesop Rock, just like very intellectualized, music. And I don't know, I used to hate on a lot of shit, a lot of people. And then at a certain point I just realized that, I was like, just because, Pimp C's talking about doing lean, drinking lean or something like that, it doesn't mean that he's a bad rapper, a stupid person or anything else. Like people have different perspectives, and you got to stop hating, like stop prejudging people. You know what I mean? So I think it was more directed at me than anything else. There are underground rappers that are there are dudes that are also total assholes, and there are people that are rapping about ignorant shit that are fucking the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life.
You know what, man? That is a fact. In Chicago, I grew up listening to everything. So in the Midwest in general, that's how like everything came from New York, but we had no choice but to pull from everywhere else. So it's like I grew up on Eric B. and Rakim and NWA and Sir Mix-a-Lot and Ghetto Boys and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. Um, and I appreciate the different styles, but like you, as I got older, I became like a hip hop snob. Like
Yeah.
this is whack. This is I think it more so has to do, for me, the lack of originality. Like biting somebody else's thing. That's what I couldn't do. There's some stuff that just doesn't sound good to my ears. Like
Yeah.
and people will kill me for this. I've never liked E40.
Okay.
And I'm not saying he seems like the nicest guy in the world, right?
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
way he rhymes, it's like I can't get into it.
When I
Uh,
first heard E40 ever, I was like, wait, what? You can rap like this? What the fuck?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I appreciate, man, longevity. Like he's beloved out there. I've seen him perform in the Bay, and it's like it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just
He's the
not my
king of the
thing.
bay.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And there's a line though, because I do feel like, man, this is go off in a whole other direction. You need the variety, you need different stuff, but some stuff is just I don't know, man. Like I'm not gonna say like Sexy Red is good for hip hop. I can't say that. She has her fan base. That's cool. But I think it's uh
Is she the one that said my booty hole brown or whatever?
there you
Pretty
go.
sure. Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah. My pussy pink, but my booty hole brown, something like that.
That's
Yeah.
her. Yeah, like how is that good? Like I don't understand how that's good.
What was the was the line in the new Clips album? I think it starts out with these like yellow diamonds look like pee pee or something like that. Yeah, that's Pusha, and so
But
I
Push is
didn't catch that. That's
I did
good.
see I heard that, but Push is like
yeah,
dope.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's
No, you
like
can't deny it. Yeah.
I'll give him a pass. There's like some people. I don't know. Have you ever read Kumo D's book? Kumo D wrote a book like 20 years ago called
Hmm,
True 50 Greatest MCs.
okay.
Oh shit.
Very good book. It's got his little slant to it, but he ranks his 50 greatest MCs. And um, I think I forget where KRS-One was ranked, but he said in top five. But he said KRS-One is the only great rapper that is allowed to have whack rhymes. And, and I'm like, yeah, he does say some whack stuff sometimes, but it's kind of true. Like you give him a pass. I'm giving Pusha T a pass because I know what he's capable of. But
Yeah,
again, like Pusha T, like it's a lot of coke rap. You know what I mean? He's talented, but like, what's the? I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
If
I used.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say I used to hate on a lot of that type of shit, but then I think it was just like being at a party or something like that, hearing like Nicotina, rap about just like or Mac Dre being all thizzed out and shit like that, and
Yeah.
I was at that right level of drunk where I was like, you know what, this is dope. I'm okay
You
with
know
it.
what? Hell yeah.
It's like it's not for every situation. Like I'm not gonna be like I don't know, being introspective and listening to it and like trying to like really hyper analyze the lyrics. Like, there's like vibes music, and then there's like analyze music. Like
Time
Billy
and
Williams is
place.
not the same. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Time and place. I remember uh I forget what year it was, maybe late 90s, early 2000s. I'm going to a club and we're waiting outside the club to get in, and the music is just to me it's just awful. Like this, I'm like, this music sucks so bad. And Common's my favorite rapper of all time. So my
You say
cousin's
Common?
Common Sense. Yeah. So my cousin, he's like, well, Common's a good artist, but you can't play that in the clubs.
Right.
I didn't even mention Common. I just said the music was whack, but he knows I love Common, so I'm like, you're right. I know you can't play Common in the club. That I'm just saying the music sucks. But anyway, there's a time and place for everything, and
Yeah.
everything has its place. I'm sure Sexy Red goes crazy in the club. I'm sure, but I haven't been to a club in a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
I fucking
I
hate
hear
the
that.
club. God damn.
It had its purpose.
Yeah.
you know, early
Club's a
tw
young
early
man's game,
20s.
or
Yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah.
young
Yeah,
person's
for
game.
sure. Yeah. It's a meat market, you know what I mean? Like for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah, it had its purpose, man. I'm
Looking
like,
for a good cut of meat in there, you know.
well, hey, whatever you want to call it. Uh, okay. Will there be a sequel to Toxic Crusaders?
Um, that's a good question.
That is a good
Um,
question, actually. It's
we've
not
never considered it.
impossible. I mean,
Yeah.
we're collaborating on a lot of things a lot of the time, so it's entirely possible. It might be with like a different producer, you know, or I don't know. We hadn't discussed that, but I wouldn't be opposed at all.
Hmm. Yeah, certainly a possibility. I see this dude at least once a week. Talk to him more frequently. So, and I mean, I'm getting I have multiple verses. I'm making a lot of music right now. Rob's making a lot of music. We're both doing like, solo shit, trying to build ourselves up, as well as Rob's doing the Black Magic Noise thing. So this is actually my first new music release since 2018. So I stopped making music for a good while. I moved down to Portland originally with the intent of having a audio engineering internship at a studio here run by Smoke of Old Dominion. And he ended up his lady ended up getting pregnant, and they were like, all right, well, we gotta plan for this. So he moved back down to Tacoma, and that ended up not working out for me. And so I was also hanging out with a musician at the time who doesn't really make tunes anymore by the name of Durazo. And he's an Oakland beat maker. He got pretty famous at one point in time just because he was playing two MPCs at the same time
That was his
on
claim to
YouTube.
fame. That is
That
true.
was
With
yeah,
both
he was
hands.
doing, you know,
It was very
both
impressive.
hands. Yeah, he had all the rhythm section on one and all the samples and shit on the other. I mean, he crushed the performances. Dude was like doing, I think he toured for like a year straight, playing like just constant shows and stuff like that. He did that for a couple years. So he was one of those dudes that just had his head to the grindstone and just worked his absolute butt off to, you know, own his skills and stuff like that. He played a couple shows up in Bellingham. Um, and he ended up moving to Portland at pretty much the same time that I did. And so we were hanging out a good amount, and that's how I met Fresh Kills and I want to say Henry Canyons and a couple other dudes, you know, through that relationship. But then he ended up he stopped making music for the most part. I mean, he still like makes music, but he's not releasing it. He's not touring or anything like that. And so I just kind of got creatively depressed because you know, and I look back on it, I realized that I was putting a lot of my energy into collaborating with people and bouncing energy off of people and kind of, you know, using them as a crutch in a way. And so when I got down to Portland, you know, I didn't have a crew, I didn't have a scene. I didn't really have like anyone to like bounce off of and stuff
And
like
then
that. So
COVID.
yeah, this is technically all before COVID, right? And so I jumped back into kitchens. I needed some way to make, you know, money after the internship died, and then I started a bunch of restaurants. I was working like 80-hour weeks for a restaurant group for a while and starting restaurants with them, and you know, I made it. You know, I was like making a good amount of money. I had season tickets to the Blazers, drinking Japanese whiskey every night, just like being dumb and balling out, just like first time I ever had money. And I was like, I work hard, play hard. You know what I mean? I'm going to do this. And then COVID hit, and it was one of those situations where, you know, we were on hiatus for like 3 months, came back. Uh, I started a sandwich shop or I was still working at this sandwich shop that I had started. And we had this other restaurant that was coming in that was like a food cart that was doing stuff in our kitchen at nighttime, commissary stuff. And I knew one of the guys from before that was doing that, and he caught COVID and died like right away. You know what I mean? And so I had that existential crisis where I was like, man, is it worth me dying to like make fucking a sandwich? You know what I mean? For some asshole. And then like one of the last interactions I had while working there was like this dude put in his online order because you know COVID, everyone is putting in online orders and shit like that. He came, picked up his sandwich, and it was one of those like the ticket comes in and it's like this long, and it's like no this, no this, no this, and
Oh
like 10 of
yeah.
the items that he says no, or they're not even on the sandwich. So it's like all he wanted essentially was mayonnaise and turkey on a fucking sub. And I was like, okay, I guess that's what you want. Like I made it for him. And he comes back in, and rather than, you know, saying anything to me, you know, or like being like, hey, you know, like I want, you know, can I get some other stuff on this? He like literally walked back into the kitchen, and it was one of those things where it's like you I mean, it's COVID, so you're extra not supposed to do that, but you never walk into a fucking kitchen of a restaurant.
That was
Walk it into
wild.
the into the back and like threw the sandwich at me.
Oh
And I
wow.
was like, and like if the owner hadn't have been there, like the owner was there and he got in between me and the dude, but I was like, okay, because there's like an island in between me and this guy. And I was like, all right, let's do this. You know, and I was about to stomp this dude the fuck out. And I was just like, you know what? No, it's like it's over. Like I'm done. I can't do restaurants anymore.
I feel like
And so
customer service people are always the punching bag, but during COVID, it was like
it
every
was crazy.
anxiety and anger and frustration was just like taken out on customer service people. It was
Yeah.
wild. That was like
And then
such a
we were
bad
gaslit that we
environment.
were like, you know, necessary workers or what, I can't remember what the term was, you know, but they like, of
Yeah.
Yeah.
course you couldn't get paid extra and, you know, no
Nah,
one's
nah, you're
tipping.
not
And
that necessary. Come on now.
yeah. So Portland, it just, it kind of, yeah, it ate away at me. And then I think like a little over a year ago, like a year and a half ago, I just kind of had this, like, I woke up one day and I was like, man, I want to make music again. And I hadn't made any music in a while. And at that point I wasn't smoking any weed. And so like smoked a little bit of weed and wrote 14 songs. And I was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like I'm back, you know. And then I got tolerant or I got dependent on the weed again and thought that like I couldn't write without the weed. So now I've been trying to figure that out. But in doing my own solo stuff now, I've got this album that we just released. I got another one coming out in August with producer Wisdom from Seattle. I got 2 EPs, or I guess 2 EPs coming out with another producer from Bellingham, one of my old buddies that I was in a group called Care Package with. And I'm doing a tape with Madshroom right now, from Black Magic Noise. So I got Rob on a bunch of feature
I'm very
tracks.
offended about that, by the way.
You should be.
Yeah.
So, not that he won't be on it, but either way, point is we're collaborating together. We're still making art together. The concept of a Toxic Crusaders album is certainly a possibility, and if there was demand for it, then fuck, why not? So,
Facts.
sorry if I rambled too much. I'm do podcasts. So.
Okay. Last question, guys. Who is the Toxic Crusaders album made for?
Ooh. That's a good question. See, okay. So I met Thad Wenatchee. Well, I didn't meet him through this, but I know him better because we were in a beat collective called FFU, Filthy Fingers United. And the whole ethos of that was like you get a prompt every month for a really long time. We put out a release every month, and anybody could join. All you got to do is continually put in a beat every month, and you would get a prompt like cartoons or sci-fi, whatever that means to you. Make a beat around that theme or that idea and put it in. So he was in that. I was in that, struggling to keep up, by the way. But I was in that. He was in that. And I feel like that's kind of like, and Black Magic Noise, we always be putting shit out. I feel like it's always for the same crowd. It's people who are very attracted to raw human creativity and have a special place in their heart for like dusty, analog, boom bappy type shit. You know what I mean? With an emphasis on some maybe some self-deprecating witty lines. You know what I'm saying? Some little snappy punchlines, and then especially like this project in particular is geared towards people who maybe have a little bit of love for some nostalgia. You know what I'm saying? What do you think, Hash?
Yeah. Man.
Name 3 people this EP was for. Go.
Name 3 people exactly. Yeah, I mean it's for the people that grew up loving hip hop, that grew up loving cartoons, and aren't afraid to laugh.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I think that's something that I fought for a long time when I was making music, was that I was always struggling. Like, I can't say this because it's corny. I don't want to make people laugh. Like, I think it was the time like Little Dicky was coming out and like Prof and stuff like that. So it's like humorous rap was a possibility, but I never wanted to like be like a comedy rapper. But I mean, I grew up with Chris Farley, Robin Williams, Jim Carrey. Like, I'm always a bit of a jokester and just a pop culture. Like, I remember weird shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I was always like axing lines about, various references. And at one point I was just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna do it. So yeah, I mean, people that are into nostalgia, pop culture, kind of the same things that we do for our podcast which is, a psychological look at pop culture and various things like that through humor and absurdity. So yeah.
All right. Toxic Crusaders, thank you for joining therealhiphop.com.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
You're welcome. Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace out.
Peace.
Have a good one.
Safe to say I'm feeling good. Safe to say I'm feeling good. That's more than alright. That's more than alright. We're gonna do this all night. Yeah. Yeah. sharp as an arrow, brand new apparel, high as the hero, fly as a sparrow. Step into the cipher and I bust like a barrel. Don't come at me sideways, I'll leave your body narrow. I'm a hustler down to the bone marrow, lyrics sterile, MC.